It seems as if Logan Paul is going to finally face justice, possibly, for his CryptoZoo involvement and also for failing to refund and, properly handle the fallout of CryptoZoo after it failed to launch. Even though multiple fans invested upwards of hundreds of thousands of dollars, some even up to $500,000 into the project, being promised this, almost pay-to-win game that is going to make you money. Now, obviously, we all know what went on with regards to CryptoZoo. It's very well trodden ground. But now there are reports coming out that the CryptoZoo investigations have just amplified tenfold as the FBI are allegedly investigating, claims against Logan Paul for his involvement with the CryptoZoo project. Now, this is where things get really interesting because I'm going to say straight off the bat, there are no official claims or reports from the FBI themselves to state that they are actually actively involved within this case, but there are strong indicators to suggest that this may be the case. So we're going to talk about it today. So, recent reports, like I say, indicate that Logan Paul is under FBI investigation related to his involvement within the CryptoZoo project, a cryptocurrency-based game that has been accused of being a quote-unquote scam. Now, posts on X and various web sources suggest that investigation stems from allegations of fraudulent schemes, with claims that Paul misled investors, potentially leading to significant financial losses. A YouTube video titled Logan Paul officially under investigation on June 5th, 2025, and another on June 3rd, 2025, suggest that these developments are pointing to a new revelations in a defamation lawsuit against Paul filed against the YouTuber Coffeezilla, who exposed issues with CryptoZoo. The lawsuit reportedly uncovered details about the FBI and SEC investigations into Paul's activities. Now, these aren't the only claims, as additionally in 2023, articles from Essentially Sports cited a true crime author, Matthew Cox, who suggested that Paul might be cooperating with authorities to avoid prosecution, possibly through a pre-trial intervention requiring him to repay investors or deliver on CryptoZoo promises to avoid any potential jail time. Now, historically, let's, not beat around the bush, Paul's brother Jake Paul faced an FBI raid in 2020 over a looting incident in Arizona Mall, but there is no direct connection to Logan's current situation beyond their shared controversial public personas, okay? So, at the current time of recording, this has all stemmed pretty much from the Coffeezilla lawsuit. So, just to get you up to speed with that, Logan filed a defamation lawsuit pretty much against Coffeezilla, basically, citing that it was an intentional takedown and he is defaming his character knowingly without any substantial evidence to back up any of his claims. He has done this in Texas so that Logan himself can avoid an anti-slap lawsuit, which basically means that you cannot take down a public figure for basically speaking out against you. So it was a very strategic move, and the lawsuit is just kind of moving along in the background as of right now. Now, like I say, this all kind of stemmed from the Coffeezilla expose and lawsuit, as YouTuber Coffeezilla released a video exposing the alleged fraudulent practices of Logan Paul's CryptoZoo project, accusing it of being a scam. And Paul filed a defamation lawsuit against Coffeezilla, which reportedly revealed the details about the FBI and SEC investigations. So this is where things get incredibly interesting. There are also X posts and social media amplifications. So numerous posts on X stated, starting around late 2024 and continuing into 2025, spread claims of Paul's FBI investigation. These posts often referenced Coffeezilla's videos as unverified sources, amplifying the narrative. For example, posts from different users like Drama Alert, for example, and others in early 2025 mentioned FBI raids or investigations tied to CryptoZoo, though some lacked concrete evidence. There is also media coverage, so there are articles from outlets like Essentially Sports in 2023 and subsequent updates in 2025 reported on the investigation, often citing true crime author Matthew Cox or an anonymous source. Cox's podcast discussion about Paul's potentially cooperating with authorities to avoid prosecution added fuel to the public speculation. And then there's the public statements and speculation. While no official FBI statements have been officially confirmed or made for the investigation, public figures like Cox and Coffeezilla, combined with Paul's own legal actions, kept the story in the public eye. The lack of sealed court documents leading directly suggests much of the information stems from legal filings in the defamation case or insider claims shared on platforms like X or even YouTube, right? So this is where all of this stuff comes into play, because though Logan has not officially been investigated by the FBI as of right now, there are a lot of rumors stemming from the lawsuit itself, and there's like a lot of, little nuggets of information that people have taken which suggests that the SEC and also the FBI are investigating Logan Paul at this current time. Now, you're probably wondering what happens to Logan should he be found guilty. Well, there's a lot of stuff that can happen, right? And although Logan's got a lot of money, it doesn't necessarily mean that he will avoid jail time, as that is a very, possible card on the table. So let's kind of talk about the legal ramifications and the fallout of this. So the allegations, of course, is that the CryptoZoo project has been accused of being a quote-unquote rug pull, where Paul and his associates allegedly promoted a non-functional game, leading to millions in investor losses. And the class action lawsuit filed on the Western District of Texas claims violations of federal and state consumer laws, including fraud and deceptive trade practices. The legal fallout: if found guilty of fraud, Paul could potentially face criminal penalties, which could be up to 7 years in prison per count of wire fraud under the Section 18 of the USC, or up to 20 years for securities fraud under the Section 15 of the USC, and fines could reach well over $250,000 per count, or twice the amount of the victim's losses. There are also civil penalties, so the SEC could impose fines, disgorgement of profits, and bans from participating in future securities offerings. For comparison, Kim Kardashian settled with the SEC for $1.26 million over undisclosed cryptocurrency promotions, for example. And then there's restitution. So courts could order Paul to repay the victims potentially millions, as alleged in class action lawsuits claiming tens of thousands of investors lost money. Then there's also the consumer protection violations. So the lawsuit accuses Paul of violating Texas's Deceptive Trade Practices Act by misleading consumers about CryptoZoo's functionality and investment potential. And the legal fallout: guilty findings could result in monetary damages, so treble damages under Texas law for knowingly violating, potential tripling the compensation owed to victims. An injunction, so restriction on Paul's ability to promote or engage in similar ventures, limiting future business activities in cryptocurrencies or potential NFTs. So that's kind of where things currently lie. Now, there are some challenges for prosecution, of course, right? So there is a lack of direct evidence as of right now. So as of now, much of the public information comes from YouTuber Coffeezilla's investigations and unverified X posts, with no public FBI confirmation of charges. Sealed affidavits of ongoing investigation may limit available evidence. And then there's arbitration clauses. So CryptoZoo's terms of service include mandatory arbitration in Delaware, potentially blocking some investors from pursuing civil lawsuits, though the class action lawsuit does persist at this current time. Now, obviously, it's highly difficult with all of these different factors being thrown into the mix right now to say, well, how likely is Logan Paul to actually face charges? Now, based off of the information that I've collated, which, is scarce, I must say, because ultimately, like I say, the only information really out there is based off of Coffeezilla's YouTube videos and his exposés, and also the action lawsuits and, the lawsuit documents that are publicly available online. kind of running the numbers, crunching the numbers, and trying to kind of get a statistic really is quite difficult. But there is a good chance, I'd say 30 to 50% chance, there's a moderate possibility that, you know, Paul could be found guilty. But of course, all of this does hinge on the FBI's ability to prove intentional fraud or security violations. So again, that's even if the FBI are actually involved. I think by this point it is so high profile, there are that many complaints, that I wouldn't be surprised if the FBI were involved. But as of right now, like I say, there is no public information to suggest that the FBI are absolutely concrete evidently involved within this lawsuit. I guess ultimately it comes down to what the FBI can churn up, what the class action lawsuit turns out to be, and whether Coffeezilla does persist and pursue and kind of come out on top of his lawsuit. Because if all of those things come together, it would put an immense amount of pressure on Logan Paul, and it would be probably enough to make him fold. What do you guys think though? Should Logan Paul be found guilty of all of this, or do you think that this is just a bit of a nothing burger? Do you think that, you know, he's just going to get away with it, and this is just going to be one of those things that's just dangled over Logan Paul's career forever? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Way down there, jump to get the hell out of that like button and subscribe, and until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.